Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. I'm your humble host today, Mr. Clem, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the wacky weather. And I greet y'all with the love and honor of the infinite creator. And I continue to pray that y'all are staying warm and trying to stay dry in this weird times of weather. But I just wanted to tell you that I've been looking at the radar here and then looking out my window and looking at the radar and looking at out my window. And I just got to tell you that for some reason, the radar's done wacky crazy today because it's showing that there ain't no clouds up over my head. And if there weren't no clouds over my head, I'd be sitting in the sunshine right now in my house. And I just got to tell y'all that whatever's going on with the atmosphere and stuff, they're showing clouds like 40 miles east of me. And I can tell you, there's clouds everywhere I look around here, but the radar says there ain't no clouds. And I'm looking at the Weather Channel now, and it's showing all the clouds and everything is moved. What the hell's with the clouds in? Is the radar wrong or my eyeballs wrong? I mean, my name's Clem, and I may be stupid and live down here in South Georgia and all, but if I was to look at the radar and say, there's no clouds down here right now, uh, hey, I must be fantasizing, or maybe I had cream of mushroom and tater soup today for lunch. It must be the mushrooms. You know what I'm saying, y'all? I mean, I just got to say that there are times, that I take my glasses off and they're not rose colored in any way, but I look at things and I rub my eyes like this and go, what the hell's wrong? But there ain't no clouds out there. Then what the hell is that? Did they hide the sun today? Did somebody hijack the sun? I tell you, it's like I'm going to have to talk to my local preacher about this because, if the radar says there ain't no clouds, then it must be true. Here, I'll show you out one of my windows just to show you I ain't lying. Oop, well, that's one window. But do you see any sunshine out there? Neither do I. I mean, Duggar's out there running around and he wants me to go out there and play. And it's like it's sloshy. It's 48 degrees. But he's out right now. He started pitching a fit for just before I turned his pooter on. And for those of you who are here today, I just want to say I love you all. Stay warm and as healthy as possible. We're going through some strange stuff. But, as Clem in this character, as I'm portraying today, just for the hell of it, because I can, I reckon, I was looking out there and going, if everybody in the rest of the new United States was to look at that radar, they'd think I'd be out there playing in the sunshine. Well, and the clouds are supposed to disappear by, starting midday. Okay. There must be something mystical going on. It must have been them canned mushrooms and that cream of mushroom soup with them taters that oh my goodness, it's so good. I even shared it with the dog, He had his lunch before I did. But anyway, so to come out of character and just for screwing around, hi y'all, I got my new modem in yesterday. Yay. And some of the glitches apparently that I had been having may have been modem related because when the guy hooked up his instrument outside to check the lines, make sure everything was copacetic for this new modem, it was like there's something wrong and I'm not quite sure. And he disconnected, went back up the hill and checked and then came back. A really nice guy, from Windstream. If they ask me how he did, I'm going to say he was like, if I could say 102%, it's hard to get 110, but he was really up there. Even told me I got some lines out there across the outside, and he said, those ain't going to last forever in the sunshine. I said, yeah. He said, well, you got my number. He said, if you ever need it, he said, just call me and I'll stop back by and we'll put in some new line outside along the outside. because I told him, I said, one of these days I need to take the boards off and replace it. And, you know, and then attach those wires differently. And he goes, you got my number, just call me and I'll stop by and we'll fix you up. And I was like, you know, I don't have to call in a service call. He said, call me on my cell phone. So I was like, man, that, you know, so really nice guy. I think his name was Jeremy or Jerome, GER. 24 hours later, I thought he was going to come early, and it ended up being later on in the afternoon. And I was like, you know, doing a video, and then I caught a couple hours sleep and then was up all day yesterday. And then, but anyway, but the modem's in, he checked everything out. We got a couple of new connectors kind of thing. And so I do see a change. I don't know if it's actually optimal or not, but certain websites and things are loading faster. You know, I have watched some channels that normally would have a glitch in it, you know, have a buffering issue and want to hold, you know, and I haven't had any of those issues now with this new modem. So, you know, but it's probably an upgraded Wi-Fi of some type. And he said there were two modes, a 5, whatever the 5 meant, and a 2.5. And said, so that means that for closer to the house, I'll get a 5, whatever, as far as, you know, walking around the house. So he said, but if you go out towards the field over there, he said, you might get a longer range, but it'll, you know, it'll buffer kind of thing. And I was like, well, cool. So I actually could have a longer range walking around in the yard and still get the Wi-Fi. Interesting. So, but anyway, so let me put my glasses on and say hi to y'all. It's just, you know, want to go outside, and I was going to get in the truck and try to go get some groceries, and I'm out of milk, and I can roll my own cigarettes. But hey, Julianne, Ian, Elderberry, Michelle, Maverick, hey, y'all. Teresa, I think I saw you in there too. I went to a garden party. There you go. Me and the dog going to take some stuff up to the trash today. Been collecting and doing. Y'all be proud of me. I mean, I'm not asking for for any type of Poppy Two Bears. Pappy, Poppy, Pee-Pee, Pappy. I took my glasses off and the letters are running together. You know, but honestly, in all honesty, you know, this being February the 19th, and I swear somebody's got a birthday on this day, but I don't know who. I'm supposed to remember. But anyway, you know, Duggar's out there looking towards the house like, come on, man. I told him, I said, not yet. And he took his little toy out there. But I really hope everybody's doing as well as possible. But, you know, but honestly, if you go look at the radar for down here in South Georgia, north of Tallahassee, you know, it's cloudy, but I've checked 3 different radars, you know, 3 different visions, and I've changed the opacity all the way up, and clouds only, and it says that there's not supposed to be any clouds over my head right now, which is a pisser because, you know, it's 3:29 p.m. in the evening time, and I picked 3:20 and was going to start with a puff pass. So I'm a little late. Yeah, but we're all here. And Teresa, I hope you're doing okay after that info drop. I've been praying about that. But great white Girl Scout cookie or something. I found a little tidbit that was in a thing. I'm like, wow, this is, look, let's have this today for you know, afternoon brunch. For a 4:20. Actually, it's only 3:20. I'm an hour early, but what the hell, right? Me and the dog are going to walk up the hill and do our mail run or take our garbage up and that kind of thing. But I'm going to pray for the sun to come out a little bit. Hey, Ray of Thoth, how you all doing? Thanks, Teresa. Red thought, my shameless blue steel point cat will pause, scratch at the door, and then realize there's snow. And his, I swear he's a dog in a cat's body. Hey, SB, how you doing? Yeah, favor to all of you. Yeah. And always blessings and cosmic hugs. I was just expecting to do a 3-minute little parody with Clem, which I kind of sort of did. But back in the day when I used to do puppets and storytelling, I could go do these characters, and I would do a little 5, and sometimes 10-minute little story in a character like Clem. And so today I was staring at my old Clem hat, and thinking, and I'm looking at the weather and I'm thinking to myself, now you got to really be stupid or blind or tripping. And I don't think those were those kind of mushrooms. Although I made a tater soup with three cans of mushrooms and 4 nice sized potatoes, right? Cut them up and herbed them up and everything. This has been 2 nights ago. So every day I've been adding just a little bit of something, although the tater soup was just good on by its own. So I've been sharing the broth with Duggar and his food and a little bit with the cats the other day. They're not too much into taters, but Duggar, especially when they're cooked with, a lot of with some decent herbs. In my humble opinion, it probably could have used just a couple more dashes of hot sauce, though. Just saying. And I didn't used to use hot sauce back in the day to sort of go off on a tangent, but I met some Cajun folks here in Moultrie years ago, and he was like, here, put you some of this hot sauce on. No, 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 it's too hot. And then I realized that no, if it's a chili burns me up no matter what, so I avoid it. I love it, but it don't love me. So I was blaming it on the chilies and so forth like that, and who knows? But in some stuff, it'd be like uh, put a couple of dashes of hot sauce on it. But why? Well, try it, and it's just a little bit of extra flavor. And when I was in jail, there was this little Mexican dude, Mexican Joe, and he and I were the pilot and I was the pilot, and he was my co-pilot for the stock room and handled the meat and all that kind of stuff. So me and Joe were tight. We spent a lot of time together in that 11 and a half months I was there. But he would say, David, we'd have scrambled eggs or whatever, and he'd be, put some hot sauce, on. Joe, come on, man. So I was like, all right, and I tried it, and it got to the point where scrambled eggs wasn't good without a couple of shots of hot sauce on them. And I'm like, damn, I've been missing this. But so as my diet changed, I used to suffer from ulcers. I understand. I swallowed a cake of grandma's lye soap. I got the cleanest ulcers in the land. Okay, off on it. It's one of those kind of days. So here, let me hit this. Let me smoke some more of my grandpa's pipe here. But in discussing this and looking out the window, now are my eyeballs wrong or is the radar wrong? And we're getting snow jobs all the time as to about what's real and what's not. But I'm still looking at the radar and it says there's no clouds here. So something's up. And it's not like these clouds are thin and the sun's going to poke through any minute. It ain't like that at all, Let me tell y'all, from Clem's point of view, that was worth finding at the bottom of a drawer. You know what I'm saying? Cheers, everybody. Well, that was a good one. Early in the morning, just about supper time, down on the corner, out in the street. Now I'm even more hungry. Julianne, so do I tell stories in hats? Well, I remember the days, y'all, I am this old and proud of it, I reckon. Um, and then I grew up with Captain Kangaroo. Now, there was a lot of people that said, the captain and this thing and that thing. Well, I, as a kid, maybe there was stuff that was subliminal. I don't know. But I just saw this guy who would put on a hat, a fireman, a policeman or whatever. He would put on a hat and do this little shtick, okay, with puppets, Mr. Green Jeans, Clarabelle, whatever. Um, we are all characters. Yes, we are. Absolutely. So, oops, I'm trying to read the chat and stay on. But anyway, I learned about puppetry from the Howdy Doody show. Not necessarily how to do it, but that I wanted to do it, and I did. And I got in trouble when I was about, let's see, I had to have been about 5, um, in Troy, Ohio. And we had a house that a lot of those houses there had basements. You had to. But anyway, so I was down on in the basement with some kind of puppet or something. I'm not quite sure. But I was given puppet shows out the window of the basement window, and they were all laying on the grass looking in. And I charged them all a nickel. And then when my mom found me standing on her new wash machine, not only did she want to bust my ass, but where'd you get all those nickels from? And so she made me go around and give all the money back to all the kids that had given me a nickel to do this puppet show through the window. So I got in trouble at an early age, and it kind of shut me down. You know what I mean? So, but then later on, I started creating puppets and I started creating characters and shows and things. Now, it took me a lot of years to admit that I had that in me. But when I found out that Jim Henson was born on the same date, September 24th, I was like, there must be something in there. So I'd already been on stage before. I'd already had received awards for doing humorous contemporary, uh, you know, type things in the National Forensic League, and all different types of um competitions. And I was just really good at what I did, and I guess what I still do. But because I'm older, and some of that brain has been hidden from me for so long now because of certain brain injuries that I've had. I'm desperately trying to get that fired back up, so to speak. So I thank you all for allowing me to be a little crazy. But hi, Brandy, Michelle. I'm trying to see if I missed anybody. Yeah, Captain Kangaroo. Yep. But he was Brandy Seuss. I did puppet shows for quarters when I was little. Yeah. Now I don't know how old you are, and you don't have to tell me. But back that would have been like 1957 ish, 56, 57. That's how far back that goes. So, but yeah, a nickel, a nickel was a lot in them days. A nickel could almost buy you what 50 cents will today, kind of thing. It's gone up that much. Thank you, Project Skyfalls. Yeah, and I'm it's easy for you to say, okay, it's Friday. Not that any day of the week matters, but I can see my hair's all frizzled up and everything. What's happened over the years, and I can understand why some guys, trim their hair or whatever. Hair is broken off, and this is all regrowth. This is all shorter, you know. So I've got this shorter hair on top of this going on 7 years worth of hair here, So all this is popping up and doing its thing, and it's more gray than the older hair, you know. 1978. You know, that was a good year. That, well, actually, that was the year I went to jail. But anyway, yeah, shame on me. But there are still things though during from my jail time that will come up and go, you know, I think this time is bad. And I go, nah, remember when you was in jail? You know, it's not to refer you to the, you know, if you think things are hopeless, no, when you're in jail, you cannot get out unless you break out, get shot, or sent to, you know, maximum, you know, solitary kind of thing, which you really don't want to do. Um, you know, I would rather have nothing at all but be free to at least make choices or move into the woods or, you know, but when you're in a lockup, you don't have anything. You just have to go by the rules, or, you know, they will take care of you in whatever form way necessary. If it's to give you a shot once a day and keep you passed out in a cell or whatever it is. So, you know, in that respect, they have the keys to the kingdom. But so anytime I feel like, oh, this is the pits, it may be the pits, but it ain't the worst that I've ever experienced. So, you know, I need to get over it, right? And God forbid that anybody has had to have that experience to understand it. But just allow me to share what little bit I've, you know, that bit right there, in that if you think it's bad, wait, don't go. You know, if you're in prison, then you wished you had what little you had. You know, wait that back. I thought that was like the shits. No, this is the shit. I want that back, and it may be too late. You know, because then you have to one way or the other serve your time. So we don't want to go into that, but in the craziness that's going on, I'm going to do a video later on. This is just to get on here this afternoon. Hi, Slightly Slanted. Good to see you. Maverick was born in 78. My kids were born in 72 and 74. So perspective, absolutely. But here's one of the interesting things that as we look around us, you know, and I'm doing this sort of as a matter of point of reference, you know, go look at the damn radar and tell me if you see clouds over South Georgia. That's all, you know. Just look in the little corner over here and see if there's any clouds. Um, so, but anyway, it's like there are no chemtrails. Now, I've found out some more interesting information about clouds, in that what may have been a long-term something for the planet, and it's been suggested, but now it's like there are different layers of this coming up, but we can actually see the changes coming in, for example, the cosmic rays and that kind of thing. But the reasoning for all of the heavy chemtrails is to suggest to put them as high up in the atmosphere and disperse them to try to minimize the incoming rays that are hitting us now and have been hitting us. And it has been suggested that had they not sprayed all of those metals into the air, that in a lot of ways we would be cooked by now. And 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was, I don't think it was last year, but people were literally getting cooked. And it wasn't on top of the skin, it was subdural, just under their skin, between the skin and the muscle. And these are the type of rays that are coming in. So I want to bitch and complain about, you know, the radar being off, but is the radar being off because of particles, because of other things? Is the radar off because they're not giving us the true picture? What's the deal? You know, if there's a satellite up there looking down and it's looking through a bunch of particles, it could be off. It seems like, you know, it seems like the radar is off by 50 miles, you know. So is the signal being deflected is kind of sort of where I'm with this. So the radar shows Valdosta, which is about 40 Well, it's 55 miles, but if you just went straight west, it'd be about 45 miles to Interstate 75. So from my distance to 75 is where along they're showing the cloud level. Is it being somehow parabolically reflected by the time it gets to the satellite? It just, you know, I'm looking for cause and effect, and that may be a little bit strange. But to the point, though, some of this other information that's sort of been hidden for a while in this unveiling of stuff, we've all been shaking our fist at the guys who are spraying. But were they spraying because they knew these events were going to occur, and that they felt like they had to do something, even if it was only to minimize what they saw through telescopes, through sensors, through, they don't tell us every satellite and where it's headed, or why. So there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of other technologies, and it seems that some of these higher folk knew what was coming, and that if there wasn't any other way to shield the earth, the people on it, um, they had to try some drastic measures. And it's made me stop and consider, wait a minute, all those times I shook my fist. And then there was an Indian chief that I had listened to, and he said, well, every time I see those clouds and I see those airplanes and those vapor trails, I say to myself, Creator, turn them into something that's going to be good for the planet. And so rather than shake my fist and holler and scream and cuss, that I would just say, Creator, take this, whatever's up there, and turn it into something good. So the odd thing is, was it actually good all along, at least from the people's perspective, that we got to do something? And even if it's going to, have unintended consequences with the people on the earth, but if we don't do this, there really is going to be consequences. We know it because of our testing and instruments. Now, we all know that the sun has changed colors, and it is not like when I was a kid. And so, but folks who may be in their 20s would not necessarily have seen the change in the color of the sun. So, but us old fogies, we remember what the damn sun was like, used to run around and, in basically a loincloth when we was kids in Florida. And, we was tan all over. And I think now that, there's no way I would get a tan if I was to be outside now. I get burnt. Well, it's because my skin's much lighter than it was. No, I used to be able to go out in the sun 15, 20 years ago. And, if I'd been inside like during this winter, I could go out with a t-shirt on or if it was warm enough, go out and be shirtless and work in the yard for an hour or two and not get burnt. I knew how to regulate how much time I could be in the sun. But then there was this change back in the 2000s that, like about 2005, it's like, I had been doing the same regimen as, since I was a kid. And now this regiment don't work anymore. You can't go outside for an hour or two with whoa, what the hell's happened? And then, as many of you know, I've been following the sun and things like that for quite a long time. Before I was doing videos, but even if you look back through my videos, I've been talking about this for a long time. So it doesn't really surprise me. But what is interesting is that, have we been cursing people? Have we been cursing people for the wrong reason? But, had they told us what they were doing it for, it would have freaked a lot of people out. We got these incoming rays. We're not quite sure. We kind of sort of measured the velocity over time, and it is getting closer, and we can sense it, and the sensors are getting better, and we're sending up all these secret satellites for what? Hey, Christy. Good, Christy. Prayers out to you. I was wondering if you all had electricity and was getting by. I know you're pretty far south, um, but still, it was interesting from a storm's point of view to see from a latitude perspective. A lot of these places that have snow are actually further south than where I live. Like what? I had not realized that Houston. I always considered Houston to be further north in Texas, further north in respect to my latitude. Latitude being around and longitude being in this way. So, but anyway, with that said, though, I might consider my situation as being really nasty, mean, bad, and all that, but there are folks that along my same latitude that are, kind of snowed under, and it's like that's just a shame. I know I'm not bragging by any means, but as an old time pioneer homesteader myself, I made the decision to dig my own well. And right now, if I needed to, all I'd have to do would be to drop a bucket down in there and get wet water. Now, I do have two 1,000-gallon tanks, and I've had the tanks for 20 years at least. And I had other storage methods as well, because it has gotten very dry here, very dry, for several years in a row. I mean, we was on strict rations. Flush the, you wash dishes and then you put the dishwater into a bucket and you pour that down the toilet. There, you did not, you used the water before you flushed your commode, which is sort of, I'm still on that in a lot of ways now, because I've got clay in the pipes that are, anyway, I'm trying to remedy it. But it has to, my issue at the moment has to do with too much red clay in the pipes. So it's not that, anyway, but so I wash clothes in the sink, take that water and put it in a bucket and dump it down. I flush the commode. I take a shower. I shower over a bucket and the bucket flushes the commode. There's just an old habit. And until I can get the water to the toilet fixed, I'm going to continue this. But I just see it as a fair use of water. Why use clean water to flush a commode when there's all this other water? Now, sink water, but as far as washing my hair or something in the sink, I do it in a container and then that water goes, to flush the commode. So no sense in wasting the water. It has always been my opinion. Where other people are like, you do what? Well, why can't I just go flip the switch? No, you want to flush the commode, then you go wash something, an article of clothes, and use that water, please. Well, but okay, it's been the convenience. So I've had this pioneer kind of look at things. Um, you know, I've got a lot of water stored, rainwater, and there's been many a time that, through gravity, I have brought it into the house, uh, filled up a bucket to be able to flush the commode when I didn't have electricity. So I didn't have to carry water from the well. I've actually have gravity feed water from the 2 tanks of rainwater that I have. So I've engineered this because not necessarily that I was preparing for the end, but I have been prepared for, and the many years of drought down here proved to me that I need to store water and I need to learn how to conserve water, because getting used to just going and hitting that button and flushing your commode, you take it for granted. And then when it ain't there, you go, now what the F do I do? So, but with this understanding of this, it's just ingrained in me, and I'm still living it, but to a lot of people, this would be a really inconvenient solution to them. You mean I got to use a bucket to put? Yes, please. In the honor of conservation, But see, here's my point of view in this, and that there are some people that have gone to the compost toilet. I haven't gotten to that yet, although it has been on my mind. For a different structure that I would like to build on the property if I get to live that long. Uh, but anyway, I'm not done with this one. So, I need to finish this house up before I start any new projects. But anyway, uh, I do have some other people who are interested. It's sort of like an earth uh, clay structure kind of thing that would end up sort of be like a hobbit house, and it would fit into the side of the hill. But I've been observing the water flow and drainage and so forth, and so I got to really be careful about how I put this thing up there on the hill. And right now, I don't have the means to, but I have some other folks that are interested. Um, First three houses I remember living in all had outhouses. Yep, I remember as a kid when my they called her grossmother, which was great grandmother to me, and it was on the Raleigh side of the family. Um, Actually, my grandmother, it was her mother. So she lived up there down the alley from where my grandmother and grandfather lived at the time in Dayton. And they lived right next to a gravel pit, which has now become a toxic dump site and chain link fence all around. But Grossmutter, she was straight from Germany after the First World War. And, but she was, I remember as a child, and it was cold because it was Ohio, and leaving the back porch and taking that trail out to the barn, and I've talked to my Aunt Shirley about this, and she said, yeah, that we had a 2-seater. So I said, I said, so every time I had to go, y'all had to go with me. She goes, well, we would kind of figure that, while we were out there, we might as well go. So there was a 2-seater and just one person, this person, hey, we come to take a dump together. Okay, how you doing today? So things are a lot different now with all these modern clean toilets and oh my God, but to think that you had to walk out to the barn and possibly share a 2-seater, an outhouse, that was attached to the side of the barn anyway. So I don't remember that much as a kid, but I do remember being out there on that cold ass 2-seater out there at Grossmutter's. Now that would have been the mid 50s, because we moved to Florida in 59. So it would have been 54, 55, somewhere in there, maybe 56. I don't know when Grossmutter died. But I remember my grandpa, wait a minute, maybe it was after she died that they moved to Florida. Oh, so anyway, I remember my grandpa Raleigh uh, being at the funeral and all that kind of thing as a little kid, which is strange. And but then they moved to Florida and got a place, and Grandpa bought a bar down there. Last time I was down there, the building was still there. I don't know what it was, but anyway, it was out there around 109th Street on Nebraska Avenue. And it was there a long time. But Grandpa bought this little bar and he moved to Florida, got out of the cold. But so he must have moved down in about 58 because we moved down in 59 into 60. So, but anyway, a little history. But I remember it snowing up north. There was snow packs in that year. That I remember as a kid, there was so much snow that they used to have these great big snow sledding things. Whole neighbors would call each other, and they'd all come over in the whole damn neighborhood. They'd build a bonfire, and people would slide down the hills on cardboard and each other. It was great, And I've talked about this with my Aunt Shirley, and she goes, "You remember all that stuff?" She said, "You was maybe 4 years old, and you remember that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever, Going to try to rest before I go back in. Y'all have a good day. You too, Christy. Yeah, we all have our jobs to do. one reason why I'm here today, just to say hi to folks and give encouragement. And just because it's cloudy out there and the radar says otherwise, it is starting to break up now a little bit. If I could get an hour's worth of sunshine, and it would raise the temperature of the house greatly. Hey, Poppy, we used to use old car hoods. Yes, they had all kinds of stuff. But I mean, apparently as a 4-year-old to remember what I did, that was like one of the most fun things. So when it snowed here, it didn't snow enough to put enough snow on the ground for us to sled, because I was like hoping one of these days it would snow enough I could slide down my own hill kind of thing. But I also noticed it's probably not quite steep enough. But if you got up enough head of steam at the top, there are some places where you could probably haul ass. If my hill got covered with snow. But anyway, you'd bump into a few trees along the way. At some times of the year, right, about this time, with all the pine needles, with a little bit of effort and a little, depending on the time of day, you can slide on them pine needles for a long way. We used to do pine needles when we was a kid, and cardboard. 32 and melting. Good luck in the contest. Much warmer in Minnesota today. Oh, geez, Minnesota. I knew a lot of folks in Minnesota. Was married from one from around Bidgie or something like that in Minnesota. Pappy says the older we get, the steeper all hills get. Uh, Not actually, it's kind of lost its steepness. I was like, ooh, if I had snow, I'd be able to slide. Oh, good for you, Michelle. Good luck. Um, but anyway, I'm on here almost 45 minutes, and that was yep, in Minnesota. Yeah. Oh yeah, loss of a pet is really difficult. I was having little forlorn thoughts of my little dog, Sasha, the other day, because she was such a brave little four-legged critter that she had to have the spirit of a warrior in there. I mean, just unbelievable. And I can see that Duggar's is younger. Sasha was probably 5 or 6 before I got her, and she stayed with me for several years. And so with that said, Duggar, when I was down kayaking in the backyard the other day, he was chasing me and going through the water in places. And so, where he has not had that to live around or be in, Sasha just jumped right in. Duggar's getting close to that. So, the more I take him down in the backyard and get used to this kind of stuff, and the fact that he jumped in the kayak with me the other day surprised us both. I think he was like, "I'm going with you. Let me get in." I was like, "I didn't have the right kayak. The hole is smaller in the green one that I have, my oldest one, but it was closer to the trail to pull down there. So my other kayaks have a more open cockpit, and so he can sit in there easier. But we crammed in there and paddled around. So, but I was grateful that that at least he's trying. So yeah. Well, Pappy, I think I have thought about that it's all downhill. But there were times when I was looking at life like the cliff is coming, and I have changed my opinion of what downhill means. So I was looking at like, well, I'm going to roll a little ways and then I'm going to fall off this 200,000-foot precipice into God knows where, right? But I've changed my opinion on that. And my opinion is that I'm just going to kind of slowly roll down and tumble. Now, not to say that a crack won't open and I'd be fall down, but I would rather go down that, I would rather, instead of it being a steep hill, it's a little bit more to slightly sloped A slightly sloped slant to slightly slanted sleuth. You know, a little bit of S's in there. But my friends, I'm going to go out there. Oh, there's the sun. Okay. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been clear. All together now. Here comes the sun, doo doo doo. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. Doo 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 doo. Jack and Jill went up the hill. Uh, oh, there was a. Jack went up and Jill came down. Something anyway. There was a really bad one. Yeah, thank you, Brandy. Girl who stowed Thor is Gillian Wills. Y'all send out some good vibes. Okie doke. The winding road down is a lot easier on you than running off the edge. Every time I have slid off the edge before. Trust me. I go to slanty kind of. I'll be, you know, when I was doing a lot more steep mountain kind of climbing, and I wasn't necessarily into the climbing as an art per se, but there were some really steep grades, and sometimes going down. Now I've got some steep grades back here, but it's only 10 or 15 feet. But you can bust your ass if you go up to the edge of the river and a part of it collapses if you're not watching what you're doing, and you fall that 10 feet and land on a log in the river. You know, you're gonna bust something. You know, is it 420 coming up? Yeah. We sound good together, Michelle. Absolutely. Yeah. I was like, I really was only going to make like a 15-minute video. You know, of course, that is always my intent sometimes, but I am going to keep this short. I'm not. I got stuff I need to do. I need to cut some firewood now that the rain is finally, thank you Jesus, has stopped. So, and it's going to be cold these next couple of nights. And this little heater was not going to do that much. Well, it'll keep me from freezing, but I don't want to have the heater if I got firewood. And I got several trees down and stuff I just need to cut up. So, and if the sun will peek out for a few minutes, it will. The other day, it was into mid to lower 50s, and the house heated up to 70 just because of like maybe 2.5, 3 hours of sunshine. So people say, well, passive solar really ain't that good. And you know, in the summertime, I do have heat loss, but it's from inside out versus outside in. But anyway, yeah, me too, slightly slanted, SSS or triple S. Anyway, went down Martha's Falls, walking up to take a break. You too, Brandy. So, but anyway, so 420 is coming up. I'm gonna hit early before I go with y'all. The dog's getting a little testy out there. I told him it'd be a few minutes, but it's at least starting to break. So, all you folks, cosmic hugs. You know, cosmic hugs. Always sent. Summertime when the living is easy. Fish are jumping and the cotton is high. Oh, your daddy's rich and your mama's good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. I remember Janis Joplin. Yeah, there is a type of thing that you put a candle in a clay pot and suspend it like a macrame thingy, okay, like a pot holder. So down here on the bottom, you have your candle in a clay pot, so it won't burn. And then above it, you know, and it, you don't have to make it too high, but you don't want the candle to literally burn the clay. So, but you can adjust it. So it could be chain, it could be a macrame setup, but then you hang it so the whole thing is can be suspended, right? But the whole object is you can vary the distance of the top is a clay bottom. Thank you. I'm putting candles turned up. Exactly. So, and depending on the pot and so forth, but I thought it was, and this came out several years ago about, you know, if you lost energy, but they look great outside as a thing and it helps kind of radiate the thing down. And anyway, um, and you can buy, depending on the candle that on the bottom. So if you had like a citronella candle that went down inside your pot, then you could have a larger thing up here, but the heat would help to, you know, dissipate the top would help to dissipate the citronella oils to like radiate it all to out all around you versus the oils just going straight up. And I find that because of currents and airways and so forth to be like an efficient way if you want to disperse something, right? You put something over it so that it would radiate around you and keep it from going straight up. So anyway, you know, in that sense, it's practical too. So, oh, Gaza, how are you? Yeah, my voice is really out of tune, if you will. Now, you do a lot of singing. I was in a lot of musicals down here and so forth. Did a lot of uh, um, just free stuff. You know, 4 or 5 people to get together and learn a choral routine, for example. And we did some things that we performed at, like, there are certain churches in Thomasville. I don't know if they still do it, but my dear friend, Mr. Paul, who was a Juilliard graduate and instructor, you know, that we used to work together, and he was he was this straight-laced guy that loved Monty Python. So you can tell where this old gentleman's head was, and he wonderful man and taught me many things, but also he allowed me to understand that I had natural talents that I thought needed honed, which there's always a lot of tweaking in there, but it's usually through practice. And he said, you know, I've worked with a lot of people, and he said, you know, I give you a note. He said, you hit it every time, you know, and you can play the song, and I can hit one of the keys a little hard, and it'll bring me right back to where I'm supposed to be tonal wise with the piano. And he was like, I don't. You should have went to, you know, he was telling me, he said, you should have went to a student, you know, and studied voice and that kind of thing. I was like, well, thank you, you know. But anyway, I did it for the thrill of performing. I did it for the thrill, and I have to throw in the word thrill. I did it for the thrill of hearing people laugh, or it, you know, some might say for the applause. Well, you only get applause if you're doing a good job. So the applause was not that, you know, it built me up. The applause to those of us that I've worked with was not for recognition. It was for the understanding of a job well done, because we never got paid for it, you know. It was always, and a lot of us sometimes would go way out of our way to go perform with these other people. I remember we did a couple of plays down in Monticello, Florida, at the Opera House down there. And oh my God, that place is phenomenal. A lot of ghosts in there too. But oh my God, that building is phenomenal. You can sit all the way in the back in the balcony and damn near hear a pin drop on the stage. I am not joking. The acoustics are that good in that old building. It was built by a gentleman, I think, from Paris, who designed opera houses all over the place. and he designed and they built this opera house down in Monticello, Florida. There, a lot of people don't know this. I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but South Georgia at one time, all of these little towns had plantation masters, okay, in Pelham and Moultrie and Thomasville, Ocklackney, and all these little towns along the way. Let's see, Pelham, Camilla had one. But all along the rail route that went to Thomasville, which was where all these rich folks had bought up all these plantations after the war, they each one of them in their own community wanted to show off to the next guy, right? To their friends from the north. So they built these extravagant theaters down here, and many of them have been torn down. But if you'd seen these theaters before, they turned them into movie houses, and then when that didn't work, that they just ended up falling down or being torn down. But there was absolutely beautiful acoustics and architecture and all these things. Oh my God, that was turn of the century. And but all that history is gone. Nobody would even know. And Monticello Opera House is one of those things that got saved. They were going to tear the building down, and somebody went upstairs and said, "Nah, we can't do that." So, having been on stage with that old theater up there, and have driven, spent my good hard-earned money to drive down there 4 or 5 days a week from up here, which is it's like a 120-mile round trip every day. So, but it was for the thrill of performing in that old opera house and for the thrill of having done a good performance in the opera house. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I helped direct a show down there and did lights for several times for the folks down there with the Monticello Opera House. Good folk. I don't know if many of them are still alive. Some of them were sick with cancer and other things, old age, and don't know, but I can't travel down there like I used to could, but it sure was a fun place to go play. And I mean, I took a guitar down there when we were going down there and just sat there on stage with my guitar with no mic, no anything, and just played to the audience. There was nobody there, but I told myself one of these days I'm going to play a guitar on the Monticello Opera House. Now, I didn't say that I was going to play to a full house or that there was even anybody going to be there. And so I took my guitar down and sat down, and somebody heard me from outside or downstairs. They were some of the staff, and by the end of my 10 or 15 minutes worth of playing, I just wanted to say I did it for myself. I got to play music and play guitar on the Monticello Opera House, And there were 3 or 4 people at the back when, at the end, I was like, I didn't see them, I didn't have any stage lights on. It was we just had some work lights on. But anyway, but for myself, it's like to have been able to perform in an acoustical type setting with the opera house, to me was like worth the experience, whether anybody was there or not. And it was cool. It was creepy. It was interesting. I'll never forget it. So, and it's worth the memory. You know what I mean? I spent several $100s driving back and forth and gas and stuff, but guys, all right, y'all talk amongst yourself. I'm over here, talking with myself, and we got 1 minute to 4:20. So the dog's really getting impatient. And Teresa, everybody, I really want to do another card reading. So now that I've got it seems like issues with the Berry back with the modem. Oh, by the way, has anybody, now it could be your end, but it has been that if I move too quickly, it jumps real bad. But I'm noticing that it seems to be stabilized or something, even though that may not have anything to do with what the how the video's coming out on your end. I know we could have issues on both ends. 420, my friends. Um, thank you. See, here comes the sun. It helps to sing, right? I'm thinking of a Crosby, Stills, and Nash song. And it appears to be a long time. Just a long, 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 long time before the dawn. Isby, you did your animal totem? Okay, Isby, if you think you got it, and this isn't, I'm not saying that you didn't, pretend that you didn't pick one or have one, okay? Ignore it if you can. Don't be looking for your totem if you think you have it, because it will show itself to you if it's your true totem or if it's a short-term totem, okay? Not to say, but there is another step in this, Isby. So you say, "Whoa, that's really strong," and you really think that's it. I've done this and then realized it was a short-term totem. It's still very powerful and still useful, and you should look into it and really become that. But at the same time, when I saw Hawk, I was like, yeah, Hawk, okay. Well, then I went through a period of time where, where's the hawk? Where's the hawk? Where's the hawk? And you can't do that. You have to allow whatever the totem is to show itself. Went outside in the yard the other day. It was rainy and off and on and there's a hawk just screeched all of a sudden as soon as I walked out of the house. It was over here and towards the woods kind of thing, but I was like, and then I listened for it and then it didn't screech anymore. But when I walked out of the house, within a minute, this hawk screeches nearby. Now, what did it mean? For me, it meant, oh, hawk's crying out. Maybe I need to be Hawkeye and pay attention, see what's coming up. Anyway, but not to say that you didn't. When you see the Southern Cross for the first time, you might as well. Oh crap. Anyway, yeah, I like that song too. Ninja Squirrel, I love it. Project, here's one of the interesting things. Now, around here, we have these little lizards, that change color from green to brown, right? And I've got one that hangs around in the house, and I complain about it, but, there are the spiders who catch the flies. But then there is this little lizard that makes rounds all through the windows and everything, checking out if there's if the spiders have caught any bugs, and they'll steal from them. It's interesting, how the ecosystem. I never expected the flies to go around checking out the spider webs, but I've watched them do it. So it's like interesting animal things. So, but I am the Hawkeye, but it took me people called me Hawkeye before I accepted it as a totem. But then Hawk came to me in a very honest to God religious way one day in the North Georgia mountains on Trey Mountain. That was just impossible for me to disregard. I mean, I just like, okay, no, that's me. But it could be a mouse. It could be mouses, mices, meese. It could be not necessarily, I hate to use the word rodent, but that's what they are, but tiny little it could be chipmunks. That day on Trey Mountain, there were these 2, maybe 3 chipmunks that came out and danced and played I was sitting down with my, feet kind of sort of a little bit downhill. It was sort of level. But anyway, my feet were headed down the trail where I just come up, and I'm on the top. I'm sitting on the the geodesic little brass thing that they pound in the ground up there, and for elevation and so forth. Because there are a lot of people who know me as David Null over the many years that I've been a puppeteer. I tried to go the Hawkeye way, and uh, they I had a Facebook page and that kind of thing, and it was not being recognized. So then I have considered changing the David Null, but there were just too many people in the different types of businesses. I was in the Carney business. I was, puppeteer storyteller on stage. I was on radio around here. So there are people who know me by David Null that would not have a clue as to who was Hawkeye. So that's why when I introduce myself, I say also known as Hawkeye. Because Hawkeye came a long ways after me, but not that I'm like soliciting anything. Back in the day, as a puppeteer and storyteller, I was calling up people, soliciting, hey, if you need a storyteller, let me know. You need somebody to MC a show or something. If you need any help with props, lights, I also do lights and sound, and people got that. They knew me. They'd call me up, well, hey, we need you, can you come? There isn't any money, but, I'm the bee's knees. Actually, probably wouldn't hurt for me to put a little honey on my knees. It was interesting that I mentioned some stuff the other day. I don't remember the last time I was on. I guess 2 days ago. Yesterday was getting things squared away here with the modem. And by the way, for those of you who are still here, there was something wrong that the modem wouldn't pair. So there was only like one channel out of two that was supposed to be giving me my DSL signal down here. And, it didn't. So this new modem has been checked and received and everything. And God bless the gentleman that was here yesterday and his kindness. I was like, I'd been waiting to go to town, and then I was to go to town earlier, and my battery's dead on the truck. So one of the reasons I'm doing this video is I'm waiting on my battery to recharge, and that's what I wanted to do today. But, I was like, hey, buddy, I noticed he had some cigarettes. I said, can I bum one? He goes, oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. I said, I've been waiting on you. And it was sort of an excuse, but actually I was waiting on him. But then by the time we got done, I was too tired and didn't want to drive into town. Plus, it was still raining. And I was just like, yeah. Anyway, there were times, you can drive, and there are times when, just stay home. But anyway, so, but I've got tobacco to roll for cigarettes and stuff. But he was like, here. And so he came in the house and he was, we were checking things and hooking stuff up and putting wires through the floor and all that. He comes by and he goes, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. And he hands me one. And he goes, you want one? I go, yeah, okay. So then before he left, he goes, I know you don't have any cigarettes. And he said, and he gave me two, and he said, here, I'm going to go smoke one in the truck. And oh, by the way, call me if you need me. You write down my cell number that that he called me on. So I was like, there are decent people. And he was, I don't know, maybe 35 years old-ish kind of thing. He's a young man, but not in his 20s, maybe his late 20s, but very kind, very knowledgeable, very polite. And, it's like, and he works for this, huge corporation. So is it, the corporation that's bad? Because the people that work for some of these corporations are just like you and me. So, and we're compassionate and we'll share. And, so anyway, and talking about Project Skyfalls, here's something that all the shaman teachers will say as far as a totem. The totem You do not choose the totem. The totem will choose you. And there are a lot of people go, yeah, but what does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean? And I'm looking and I'm looking. There will be a spiritual moment that you'll just go, oh, holy crap. Now, there can be several animals that come to you that seem to be very spiritual, and those can be your short term totems. You might see a crow, depending on where you live. You might see a crow that, you do, and you go, boom, and there's a crow. And you go, what? There's a crow. Oh, you're not driving and go, oh, look, there's a crow. That could mean something, but there are times when you'll turn your head and go, there's a crow right there. Nobody else will see it. It'll be for you, and you've seen it, but it just caught you out of the corner of your eye. Then that may be crow honestly telling you something. Now, so you can come upon a whole field of crows or a bunch of them sitting on a wire and you go, whoa, there's crows. There could be a subliminal message in there. But the way Hawk told me, and that associate along with, the beaver and the owls, I mean, at a time of meditation, they'll magically appear and cry out to you. And they'll be like, what? Now, it could be a dog. So we have to understand that the canine four-leggeds, like Duggar, who's really impatient for me to let him back in, but he was so impatient to go out. I'm like, okay, feel the other side of this. I'm not being cruel. He can run all around if he wants to, but it's his choice. So he's going to sit at the door and bitch to himself. He won't let me back in. But anyway, so the understanding, though, and this goes for everyone, the way you understand it then is like, wait a minute, I wasn't looking for the crow. I wasn't looking for a particular thing, but it shows up at really odd times. And when you trust your insides, like for me to go outside and then within a minute later, this hawk squawk, and I don't think it had anything to do with me, but the timing of things that happen in nature. So I could have been outside for 10 or 15 minutes and then the hawk cry out. No, it was within 2 minutes for sure. So it was like, well, now that's just interesting timing. So, but when you have those kind of synchronicities with whatever it is in nature, then you will walk out your door and then something will, or you at the weirdest time, maybe, like for me, there's been times when Hawk would just like blink into my subconscious, like, what's that about? And I didn't have to go anywhere to see Hawk or to see Otter or, these, or Owl, So I didn't have to go anywhere and meditate because I've already learned that these totems are connected with me. That then if that energy is around or is necessary for me to hear somehow, because, Hawk cries out all the time and I don't hear it. There are owls on the river that if I can just go back in the backyard a little bit, there are owls all up and down this river. So, sometimes the day and night, and right about now, by the way, too, it's about the 4 to 5 o'clock hour. All the owls will hoot out to each other up and down the river. They check with each other almost the same time every day. And I mean, with an Indian time, around 4-ish, before 5, and they'll hoot and there'll be one way up there and you can barely hear them. And then further up the river, you can hear it again. So, and if you're attuned to that, now I've been retired now. So if I'm attuned to that, sometimes I'll go out about this time. Maybe that's why I want to get off of here. But so I can go hear the owls for their afternoon hoot. I'm going to go to the woods to Hooters to hear the Hooters, I'm sorry. I was trying to get the joke in there. I knew it was in there somewhere. I'm going outside to listen to the Hooters, so I don't have to pay admission, but different kind of thing anyway. Although, if you listen, allow yourself to listen to the owls, they will strip down certain emotions from you. And if I'm kind of feeling uptight or something, if go out to the woods and just listen. And then, for me, knowing that owl is one of my totems, then I hear the communication go, wow, man, I was all being stressed out and twisted up in a knot here. And now I go outside and here are my brothers and sisters hooting, you know, up and down the river. Oh, so I'm not alone and I shouldn't be stressed out. And oh man, I should be more like Owl. So sometimes just hearing that occasional hoot and communication between the owls, and there's certain times of the day, I've heard them about 1:30 to 2 o'clock. So it's almost like every couple of hours they'll like echo the hoot up and down the river. And right now, with no leaves on the trees, which is changing drastically, by the way, there are all kinds of stuff that's starting to bloom out now with leaves. I think it's a little early, but anyway, so I love you all for being here. I'm glad that I could be here and y'all have a chat, But I really do need to go cut firewood. It's going to be chilly willy, and once I fire up, if I'm going to fire up the chainsaw, might as well make it worth it. You know what I mean? But I got some limbs out here that I cut down before. I got another limb that needs to be cut off and cut up. So, a little bit of work, but it's right here at the house. It all needs done, so I don't have to go far. But, if it's going to be cold, it's going to be around 30 in the morning here, which is, that's cold enough for me to say, hey, come on, let's have a fire. And because I've got all this wood piled up in my yard from the trees and stuff I've had to cut down, why not have a fire? What the hell, right? But even so, if I walk down to the back to see how bad the water is, how gushy, I'll bring back there's small trees and limbs and stuff. I'll drag something back every time. So it adds to my pile without going down. And I used to just go down there all the time and bring it up and have it pre-stacked. I haven't quite been there this year, but I know I can just take a walk right down there and pull something up here that's easy to cut up and use. So, but anyway, I'm never going to run out of any kind of heat per se in that direction. So, but anyway, my friends, it is Friday afternoon. And for those of you who love you too, Project Skyfalls, all of y'all, yes, Chloe, I agree, and there were times like this afternoon, and you know me, I'm not bragging, but Spirit will say, uh, hey, brother, you need to get on. And no, I need to go cut firewood. Nah, you need to get on. But I need to go cut firewood. You need to get on. Okay, well, go do a Clem thing and just have some fun and be crazy. Well, all right, well, where the hell did Clem go? And Clem says, well, I didn't go nowhere now. I've been here all along. What the hell's wrong with you? I've been hanging out over here on the hat rack just waiting for you to come back and talk to me. Now, what's wrong with you? You wouldn't let me talk all this time. You've been chatting about shit and people. Oh, okay. What about Clem? I'm the one that started this show. So, but anyway, yes, I'm crazy. And I'm trying to allow that to come out. Well, Project Skyfalls, I just went back up and it says Hulk, vultures, and cardinals come out when I am outside. That's a good thing. And it could be that all three of them are not necessarily your main totem, but you have an aviary kind of, you have connections with birds. So I've noticed that although hawk and owl seem to be the primary, but that I'm all other birds now, there is some kind of connection with. So, it could be one or the other. And depending on where you are, as far as if it's the Western vulture or the turkey buzzard, it's around here. But all vultures, let me tell you, y'all want to hear a story before I go? Um, about vultures. Now, the story goes that vulture had the most beautiful plumage of all the other birds. Its wingspan is huge, right? It in ways that even surpassed many of the eagles. So vulture was this proud bird. And so as the story goes, um, vulture wanted to be the king of all birds. And simply because of his plumage and everything. So it's like, you will serve me. I am turkey buzzard. You will serve me. And all the animals were terrified because there's this big bird that was being threatening, and so the animals brought different things to the vulture to eat. And vulture snubbed his snow and said, I am too great. Look at my feathers. Look at my plumage. That is menial. That is for lower, beings to eat. Not enough for me. Should bring me something that I would be proud to eat. So the different animals, from the mice all the way up through the food chain, they brought their gifts, right, to the vulture. And vulture denied that, saying, why would you bring me this measly deer from, bear brings a deer, and says, I present this. And why would you bring this to me? I am, I deserve better because of who I am. And so when, this went on for a while, and, vulture was, I say buzzard once in a while, but the vulture was like getting hungry. And so he was, really rude to his servants and everything. And, and he said, I'm so great and I'm so proud. You need to bring me even more. And they just deserted him. So he was getting hungry. So vulture said this prayer to the creator. He said, Creator, I'm getting hungry. My feathers are molting. And he went up, on this high mountain to have a conversation with God. And as he was going up to talk to a great spirit, the sun burned all his feathers. And, as he tried to fly again, and higher that he went to try to, become God, if you will, all of his beautiful feathers and everything was turned to dark and ash. And he fell to the earth and was so hungry, there was a dead animal nearby. And he crawled over and started eating around with the bugs and the maggots and things. He just stuck his head right in, started eating because he was so hungry and so famished. And then Creator said, Vulture, because of your ego and because of your discredit to your fellow animals and creatures, you will now be cursed to only eat dead things, and your plumage will forever be lost. And most of the vultures, they don't have many feathers on their head. It's because so they can stick their head into these carcasses. And you shall ever, bear the mark. And so that was vulture's curse for having too much ego. And so, but that's an old native story that's been around for a while. But anyway, I just wanted to, I found this baby mouse one time, pulled over, tie a tarp. It's interesting when we pay attention to nature, like my dog's out there just having fits because I've been in here for almost an hour and a half and he hasn't. Hooters, no chicken strips. Right. There you go. finally heard my barred owl the first time this week. I thanked him for allowing me to know he was okay. There you go. I had a magpie come right up beside me as I was digging in my garden. Yeah, Gaza Cab, here's the interesting things about our energies. The more I've felt my energies align and how I knew that my energies had changed was because I could be working out in the garden, and instead of birds not being around, you'd notice them like, wow, hi little bird, how you doing? And then another one would come over. They just wouldn't be afraid of you. They can sense your energy, and you're digging in the garden, and your energy field has changed, and nature can see that. That's just my 2 cents, but I it's good that other people notice this. You know what I mean? That's a part of this spiritual journey. That's part of the blessings, okay? Because nature comes to talk to you. It was about the size of my pinky. Yeah, what are the chances, right, Brandy? Uh, what was your favorite kid song? What, Brandy? I missed something. I'm backing up to see if I missed anything, and you all keep going on. Okay, and it's going the wrong way for me. Uh, yeah, a maid. I don't know who wrote that. It just went by, but um, Neil Young there was a song, "A Man Needs a Maid," so I can agree with that. Out your back door, back deck, back door. Anyway, I love you all. I need to go cut firewood. I wonder what my sister. Love the lessons. Project Skyfalls. Does that help you understand? Because a lot of people look for totems and they don't. They're it may be right under their nose, but they keep looking. So the biggest thing about totems for anyone, regardless of what method you use, you will know when that totem is yours. It will freak you out that you will know. I mean, every time when I was like doubting myself, well, hawk's not really my totem, I'm making this up, there would be one like show up within a minute or two on a limb somewhere and scream at me. And I'd go, what? And it'd be like, pay it, you want to, I was trying to renounce it in a way, like, nah, that's my imagination. And then they would pop up and go, oh, no. So now, hawks are, here all year round. So there may be some birds that aren't here. And, if you're further north that you don't have all the time. So, but when springtime comes, you could get a knock on the door of what that totem is. But if I look at, it's not just hawk for me, it's birds. But hawk is the main messenger. But, a hummingbird could fly in and surprise me one day and I'll go, holy crap. And hummingbirds bringing a message too. So it may be a project that it is about the birds, and not this bird, you know what I mean? Um, I remember there's a song going in my head, and I don't know where I've heard it for birds, 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 birds. Um, some are big, some are small, but birds, 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 birds. They always like to love us all. Birds, 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 birds. Anyway, um, yeah, when they keep presenting yourselves to you, I can wheel up to a vulture, turn around and talk to it. Yeah. And let me tell you, vultures are picky because at the animal shelter place that I used to work with, they had a one-winged vulture, and the vultures would come and visit him. Okay. I mean, It was amazing to watch this vulture, and he couldn't go anywhere, and we couldn't allow him out in the yard. But once in a while we would, there was no way he'd fly because he only had one wing. So, but the other vultures would take turns and come and sit. We had chicken wire on the top of the pen. It was a very gracious pen, but it was still a pen. But the vultures would come in and land on top of that chicken wire and sit up there, and they wouldn't necessarily, they were communicating. You could watch, Gus was the wounded vulture, and the other vulture would up here, and they would just stare at each other. And we couldn't get too close to the wild vulture sometime. But if we were sitting in the yard, we would just become real quiet and listen. And we could never hear anything auditory. But this vulture would look, I don't know if it was male or female, but the vulture would look and they would stare at each other. And Gus would be like, afterwards, this one fly out, and Gus would be a little chipper. So, and if it was a really bad stormy day, the vultures, necessarily lying. But if it was a decent day, it could be cloudy. But I mean, if it's been storming and stuff, vultures aren't just going around a lot. But yeah, so having watched the communication between vultures, and this has been many years ago, but the experience of sitting there, just them looking at each other, No, Barry, sometimes the vultures, they don't really get trained. I mean, not to say that you couldn't train one, but having watched Gus, and I mean, where this center was, 1,000 acres literally around it in any direction. Okay, not joking. And no houses, no farmland, woods, swamp, different kind of terrains, high up on a hill, low down in the river. And watching the vultures come in, there wouldn't necessarily be any vultures in the neighborhood where you could go out on the road and at a fairly decent altitude for around here and pan the sky, and there wouldn't be a vulture anywhere, but there'd be one sitting with Gus, And then if one left and it was still daylight out, another one might come in. Like, how the hell do they know he's down there? We would sit out there late in the evening, and spark up a bowl and watch him go. There's the, we don't think it's the same vulture. Wings look a little different, walks a little differently on the chicken wire kind of thing. And, but just, we don't think it's the same bird every time. It's kind of, some vultures will have like a distinctive thing, like somewhere maybe around the head or the neck. Otherwise, it's just black plumage. And if they ruffle their feathers, they can look different than, So it was really difficult without some kind of tag or mark. So we always looked towards the feet or the head or the beak or something to see if there was any, or maybe the tail feathers, if one had a full plumage versus one that was missing a few feathers. But anyway, and watching and observing nature, here's the deal. I've had a hawk look at me like I saw the two vultures look at me. And when I saw that stare that they did, I was like, oh my God, I know what that feels like. I have connected like that with not just a hawk, but years ago, I had an experience where I was less than 10 feet away from a very large barred owl down here in the swamp. And he was watching over this area. I think it was actually a she, because the males are a little smaller. But sat there, and she knew I was there. Turned her head all the way around and looked at me, and I froze. I was standing a little deeper than ankle deep in water. It was flooded that year. and she was looking for frogs and stuff that she could get a bite out of. And the lilies were blooming, and but I just stood there, and she twisted her head back around and ruffled her feathers, and then turned around and gave me that look, and I was like, whoa, dude. And the bird should have flown off, being that close to an owl that size. And it wasn't high up in the tree, it was on a lower limb, so the eyeball look was just a little, maybe 5 or 10 degrees up, looking straight at this owl. And then she'd turn around and hunt some more, and I just stood there, and held, and I'm like, I'm just going to hold still here, and for an easy 10 to 15, I don't, 15 might be stretching it, but at least 10 minutes that owl sat there, but didn't fly away. It just flew to another limb a little higher up with a different advantage. But the owl still stayed there. I took a step or two because I was in a cramp, and just leaned up against the tree and watched the owl for another 10 minutes, who then flew off a little ways off. But as far as being, and I've met wild critters before in the wilds, right? And they will only allow you to get so close. But for me to for that owl to have allowed me to be in their space for that long without like watching me or hooting, just said like, oh look, it's Dave, and that was before I actually quote became Hawkeye. But that was in my early trainings. But that gave me the confidence to go, these owls really aren't afraid of me. For whatever reason, they don't fear my energy. And so, but smaller birds a little bit more flighty and skittish and stuff like that, see? So, but when you quote, I guess if I, by receiving owl energy, it was early in the morning, by the way, that owl was doing its thing, which was also interesting that it was out and hunting in, in an early morning setting. But it allowed me to, that was my starting point to go, wow, if I can have that with a hawk, then there are lots of other birds, or with owl, because owl's not always around, but he is, or she is, or it is, the energy is. And so is hawk, whether I actually see him or not. So, but they have made their essence known, and without a doubt, that it's one of your major totems. But like I said, you can have short-term totems, and be aware of that too. So anyway, them little turds shout at me and bark. Squirrels, yeah. Okay, one of you out there, squirrels, da dun 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 dun, squirrels, da dun 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 dun, squirrels. Um, oh man, I can hear that part of the song, but squirrels, dun 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 dun, dun squirrels. And there are people. Interesting point about squirrels is that people say, "Well, I'm going to go out squirrel hunting." No, and they're tromping through the woods and they don't see a squirrels. And squirrels can see you from a mile away, and you don't know it. So they're hiding from you. So, but you can walk into an area and sit down for 30 minutes and basically don't move, just sit down, and don't have, lean your gun up somewhere, and you'll see them come out, along with other birds will come into the area. These critters know you're there, you go. And the old timers, they always said, just, go find your good tree, where there's some acorns or something like that, and where that would feed, squirrels or other wildlife. And you'd sit underneath that tree and wait for them to come out. You didn't hunt them, in that respect. So anyway, those are them, Old timers talk. The squirrel goddess. I have many squirrel videos. Good for you. I had the Secret Squirrel album when I was a kid. I don't know about that one. Maybe that's where the song comes from, and I don't remember. My cats. Now, they're not very big cats, but the smaller one of the two, the smaller one is the kid from the bigger cat, anyway, was out here one day and had a squirrel that was bigger than the cat was, and ate every single bit of that squirrel. So it's like, it's amazing. It's like, where did the squirrel go? And the only thing left is the tail. How did they do that? It's like, and the little cat didn't gain in mass. You know what I'm saying? It should have been the squirrel was as big as it was. Shouldn't it be now bigger than this? And it's like, no, they just go off and lick their paws and go. And I go, a friend of mine was here a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about, she goes, that cat of mine, I seen it with a squirrel and the next thing it was gone. The only thing left was the tail. I was like, how do they do that? That's a good question, but they will sit there and eat the whole damn thing. Sometimes they'll share, but that's why it upsets me so much when we talk about killing squirrels and eating them. Yeah, I have changed my opinion. I was raising rabbits for a while, for a couple of years, and looking at other meat sources and stuff, and it's like, um, we used to go and go to a place, and the guy would kill the rabbit right there and skin him out for you, so you didn't have to do it. You didn't have to watch or nothing, but he'd skin out a rabbit right there. And so I'm like, here you go, here's your rabbit. But when you have to actually do it, and you have fed this critter and everything, to take a knife to it, and it just don't seem right. Now, I have not been in a starving, I won't kill a chicken to eat kind of thing. But at the same time, I can understand, because I've been close to those situations. And yes, I have shot and killed, skin, and ate rabbits. Yes, I've killed, skin, and ate squirrel. But I don't see the necessity now. But if I had to, if there are a bunch of squirrels and I'm hungry, I'm going to take one out. But is it going to be like, hunt squirrel because, no, that squirrel's going to go in a pot that's going to feed me and maybe the dogs and the cats for a couple of days, because it's going to go in a stew with some other stuff. If I'm that hungry to have to go, shoot squirrels and stuff, then I'm going to be in a sure enough survival. Sorry, there are a lot more of you than me, and I'm not going to eat a me. So I'd rather eat a squirrel than a human being. And there's not enough roots and turbers and stuff down here that I could live on through this period of time in the wintertime. I would have to be eating squirrel or something. Would have to. If it was a pioneer situation, I would have to. I'd probably have to eat armadillo. I have before, but there's not enough fish in the rivers that would keep me going. And if the river's too high, there ain't going to be no fishing right now. So in many of the spots you would go to, or they're literally 15 feet underwater. And yeah, the river is going back up again because we had another inch of rain. But anyways, so to that point, if it gets to that period, it's going to be one of the squirrels. I wouldn't shoot a squirrel a day. It'd be like one a week, maybe two. And I wouldn't get them all from one area. I'd go a mile or so upstream or downstream. I wouldn't hunt like under the same tree, because that's stupid. But do responsible hunting, if you will. But for where I live, there is a lot of swampy areas, and there are a lot of big oak trees that have acorns, a lot of other types of things. So, it has a decent squirrel population. Not the best, but decent. So, and there are other critters if it gets that point. But anyway, the animal spirits in these animals know that there are times when they will be sacrificed if people are starving. Very interesting and very true because, as I've told other people, like Big John, the animal will let you know if it's all right. And so, one of the first times Big John went deer hunting, and he said, Pops, he said, this deer came out, and I was going to take it, but it just kind of looked my way, and I knew that wasn't the one. And he said, and just a few minutes later, there was this other deer that came out of the woods and turned and looked straight at me. And he said, Pops, through the lens, I could tell. He was like, okay, you can have me. And he said, I asked a quick prayer. Is this for me? And the deer kept looking at him, and he said, I swear I heard yes. And I pulled the trigger and downed him. And that was his first kill. But he said, I understand the honor of that now. He said he looked right at me and said yes. So, if you're not going to find a squirrel, then nobody said yes, you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely, Therese, about surviving. Um, I don't want to kill a rabbit. Fried with brown gravy, rice is delicious. Well, see, there isn't enough fish around here. They managed with the chicken farms that are around here. All the chicken poo ends up getting spread literally all over these counties. And the chickens keep pooing and they keep scooping it up and spreading it on the ground. And when a big rain comes, all the chicken poo and all of those things associated with end up in the river. They've tried this in many locations. They tried this out in Arkansas and Missouri. They had to move those operations because it was too rocky and there wasn't enough sand to deplete the toxins that were being accumulated. There were children in Arkansas, and I can't remember which of the chicken plants it was, one of the big ones, and they were spreading the chicken poo on the children's playground, okay? And so there was 30 kids that came down with a certain type of cancer or a leukemia or a bone disease. It was something. And it was like, and the people were like, what's going on? And so when they went backed up to what was going on, it was the chicken poo. So they moved the operation in Moultrie is huge. There are millions of tons of chicken crap dumped on top of this planet every single year down here. So it leaches all this stuff into the rivers. And unless you test the water for specific things, which the EPA has been doing, mind you, I found out about these studies. They're watching these rivers to find out whether or not the contamination is affecting the watersheds. They were checking my river 2 miles north of me on the 111 bridge. They were checking that on a regular basis to see what the impact of the spreading of chicken shit on farmers' lands, if it was going to get back into the river, and at what point could it be detected. So I was like, why aren't you checking this bridge down here just above my house? And they were, we don't consider it a major importance. And I'm like, it's 2 miles south of the same watershed. And there are a lot of cotton plants and things and chicken things. So you're not you're going to take it way up the watershed and check it. Shouldn't you be checking points further south of that? And they were like, well, it wasn't in the study. And it was published years ago. They've been after this for a long time. Oh my God, I see blue skies. Trout population, the bass population is down. But here's the thing. And I talked about this at the Ochlockonee River before. It's got a sand-based kind of thing. There's not a lot of rock on the Ochlockonee River. Not only anywhere downstream from us, all the way to the Ochlockonee Bay. I've been on the I've been on the river in several places, and there might be a rock or two, but it's mostly sand, okay, and clay mixtures. Um, but if you go west of here, you hit the Flint River in about 30 miles, which is mostly rock and flint and limestone, totally different kind of river. And if you go east of me over towards Valdosta and the Withlacoochee River, there is sand, but it's like the top of the limestone over there, for what Florida's basically is. And and now here in the middle between in the watersheds is the Ochlockonee, you know, and is a source of the Ochlockonee Bay and so forth, but it's mostly sand. And further west, you get into Apalachicola River, and all these rivers are flooded, by the way, right now. It flood stage for here is 15 feet at the one river that I always check, and it had come down to almost 16 foot from a 17-foot level, but now it's spiking back up because we got this extra inch of rain, and all that's going to be working down. So at best, the river is not going to come down. It may moderately go up, but they're still saying that beyond flood stage will happen at least until Monday. Now, this is Friday. So we got today, Saturday, Sunday, and then about noonish on Monday, it will peak. It will come down to flood stage. That don't mean it's going to be like all drained out. No, we're going to still have 15, 14 feet of water for a little while. It's going to take a while for this water. And if we don't get any extra rain, it's still going to take this water probably at least a week for all of this to drain. And everything south of us is flooded. Bluntstown, the towns where the Ochlockonee goes through into Florida, they're all underwater down there. And they have to deal with not only the water they got, but all this is sitting in my backyard is going to end up in there someplace, And there's a good bit of water back there. So, but anyway, I love you all, and thank you for hanging out. How many farms nearby? Too much runoff into the creeks and streams is just not safe. No, it's not safe for a lot of stuff. Yeah, I have been bitching about some of this stuff, and always look at the fish. A friend of mine got some fish out of a nearby pond, and one of them had a great big sore on it. And I was like, I ate a couple of the fish, but the other ones ended up going to the cats. So no disrespect to the fish, but I was like, yeah, there are times when it's okay, but then, there's so many ponds around here with so many farm runoffs just into the ponds that I was like, no, I don't think I'm going to eat them last two. And they were beautiful too, by the way. But around here, there is a lot of sand issues. You go west, you run into the top of a big, there's a name for it, and I can't think of it at the moment, but a lot of limestone and a lot of caves in this area just west of me. I mean, like 10 miles west of me, there are caves. And on private property, but they're still there. And the underground is still there. But then you go over this ridge, like a plateau, but it's still a little higher elevation than I am here. But it runs all the way to the Flint River. And going up and down the Flint, there are these really amazing limestone kind of rock formations. It's really cool. Yeah, when the water's up, you have a better chance of the water being better than like at a low water, because you're still going to get runoff. But the toxins are going to be a lot more, impactable. I mean, when I go down to the river, in the summertime, if the river's at a particular height, I won't go in it, and there's algae growing on certain places. And it's really not healthy. You can smell it, but, we have all this chicken runoff. So, I mean, there are millions of birds that come through just Colquitt County alone. And then there's Thomas County, Grady County, north of us. They're all growing chickens for this big plant in Moultrie. And there's a plant also in Camilla that's Well, it used to be Kegel's, but I think they sold out, and it's a pretty good sized plant too, but not near as big as the chicken plant in Moultrie. So a lot of production for that down here. And so that was one of the things that somebody said, well, what if, the big crash came and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, these farmers would have to turn these chickens loose. They would be bartering the chickens that they have because they won't be able to feed them, water them, or do it unless, they have extra. But who are they going to sell them to if the market crashes and things really get bad? So for those of us stuck down here in the South with all these chickens, we might not have to go squirrel hunting. You know what I mean? We just might have to go to a neighbor who's got thousands of chickens at any one time and go, hey, bud, can we trade? Or, are you just going to turn some of them loose because you can't feed them? They're going to have to do something. So our issue might not be an issue. But anyway, I love you all. Duggar wants in, and I need to go cut firewood. I love you all. Thanks so much. I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will continue to accept, receive, and to share the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom from the universe. Each and every day when I put my feet on the floor, I say, thank you, Lord, and pray that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And in the name of the number 3, I want to say to all of thee, I love you, and keep accepting and receiving the knowledge, the healing, and the wisdom of the universe, and continue to share with all your friends, relatives, and all of your relations. Until next time, be safe. Thank you, Project, Elderberry, Teresa, Project Skyfalls, Michelle, and everybody I didn't mention. Love you all. Be safe. Until next time, I'm hoping to do a card reading. So we'll see. Let me go do my firewood cutting. Cheers to everybody. Love you much. See you.